Marsili, Director of Trusts at the ARC of Northern Virginia. And this is my background slide here for a couple of reasons. One, Jan already mentioned the house rules. Use the Q&A section to ask your questions, and then everyone will be muted. Since this is in a webinar format, we can actually control that. And then also you won't see a gallery of pictures because it's the webinar versus the meeting format. You can see on the side of the screen what we call the badges. There's an orange, purple, green, yellow, and dark gray. Those are the free webinars or forums that the ARC of Northern Virginia hosts, which are open to anyone, anywhere in the entire world. Basically, Trust Talk Tuesdays is twice a month. All of these things we'd like you to RSVP for so that you can get the Zoom link. Everything is virtual. Trust Talk Tuesdays, and then the bottom three are all held as in a meeting format. So I usually call it a facilitated roundtable. So you can talk to me about anything, or if it's one of my staff hosting on the Trust Talk Tuesdays about trust, but also about any disability related topics. The bottom three are on the third Friday of the month, and they change quarterly. So Financial Fitness Friday, I believe that's the next topic coming up on the third Friday of April, which is going to be April 22nd. Nope, April 15th. So next Friday. Special Needs Trust is then the third Friday of May, and Social Security, third Friday in June. And then the purple one, first Friday, is Futures Planning. That's the first Friday generally of every month. I invite another professional or two from the community, sometimes three, to talk about specific topics. And those topics are the most commonly referenced questions in all the other forums that we hold. So know that you're welcome to join us at any time. You can go to the arcofnovatrust.org website, which I put in the chat, and under events and register. And Jan, I forgot to ask, am I running the PowerPoint presentation then? Or are you?
Yes, you are.
Okay, good. So let me just minimize my screen because I wasn't ready for that. Okay, let me bring up my PowerPoint. And also thank you everyone for attending the annual transition fair in Greater Prince William. I have still the need to draw the winners from the drawing. I apologize. I've been sick, and so I haven't done that yet, but that's upcoming, and then I'll announce those. Okay, so I am ready to share my screen. Sorry, guys. Costing us important time here. Full screen. Excuse me. Share screen, PowerPoint. There we go. So, and here we have it. And I am trying to get it to play full screen from the beginning. There we go. Futures planning is our topic today, with my elder daughter Sheridan on her horse a few years ago, back when they were riding. So I'm Tia Marsili, your presenter. I'm the Director of Trust at the ARC of Northern Virginia, where I've been since September 6th of 2006. I'm also the mother of two young women with disabilities. Sky is 22 and still in the school system in Fairfax, and Sheridan is 28 and in a day program, and we're desperately trying to find her a job with her job coach. So I'll go briefly into who we are. The ARC's mission is to promote and protect the human rights of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and actively support their full inclusion and participation in the community throughout their lifetimes. We, the ARC of Northern Virginia, are a local chapter of the world's largest nonprofit, supporting thousands of people with IDD and their families. And we're a sister chapter to the ARC of Greater Prince William County. And we're funded through direct services we provide, but largely we're supported by membership dues and donations. So if you're not a member of your local chapter, join today. The ARC of Northern Virginia Special Needs Trust Program, we have over 23 years of experience establishing and managing trusts in Virginia, Maryland, and DC. I'll repeat that. The Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Maryland, and the District of Columbia. So we are the trust in this region, and some people call it the DMV region, in this area that established the special needs trusts for parents, for their children, and for the individuals themselves if they need to. There are over 600 chapters nationwide, 11 in Maryland, 24 in Virginia, and 1 in DC. And our ARC just celebrated its 60th anniversary in March. This is my trust team. Evelyn is my right-hand woman, and Ashley, client manager. She's my backup for presentations and answering questions as well. So oftentimes it's just as good to email her. If you notice my email, it's my first initial and last name. That's how we're all set up. And then at thearcofnova.org. So you have everybody's emails. Allie helps with scheduling appointments. Trini and her team of Honey and Fiona handle the disbursements. So Fiona was just hired recently. And then Rob also, he started on March 1st. He's the communications assistant. So he helps me with marketing and flyers and things like that. So we've expanded significantly. Great news. So let's get on to the topic. What is futures planning? It's planning to address a long-term disability. I love pies, and hence the colorful pie here. I listed out the most important things we need to be thinking about and talking about when it comes to futures planning. We won't be able to cover all of these topics today. The topics we do cover, I won't be able to cover those in depth because each of the topics are usually an hour-and-a-half presentation. And they're not equally distributed as you see in the pie, but I wanted to give you an idea of all of the different areas that we need to be thinking about as we're planning for the future of our child or children with disabilities. And you may also be planning for your own future as well, right? As some of us are reaching retirement. These are also things that we need to be considering. So what are we going to address today? We will talk about the letter of intent, legal authority as it pertains to the individual with disabilities, government benefits, estate planning tools, that's you as the parents and what you need to be thinking about, special needs trusts, and ABLE accounts. So we have a lot to get through. And we're asking you again to save your questions or place your questions in the Q&A so that we can read them there at the end of the presentation, which Jan will do. So first of all, letter of intent. What is a letter of intent? It's a document, it's a guidance document that outlines the advanced directives regarding financial, legal, personal care, and other matters of a person with disabilities. So usually the parent or parents write it together with the individual with disabilities to address a variety of topics. And in June, whatever that first Friday is in June, on our first Friday, sorry, I don't have my calendar up. Let's see, June 3rd, there's actually a First Friday's Futures Planning on writing your letter of intent. You want to address things that in that pie, right? All of those different topics that we just showed up in this pie here, right? You're going to be addressing all of those topics in the letter of intent, preferably. And you want to talk about also the things that work for the person with disabilities and the things that don't work for them. For example, don't take my son to a concert because he has sensory processing issues and the music will be too loud and he'll have a meltdown. Things like that. Because there's no need for other people to put your child through things, your adult child eventually, right, through things that they cannot tolerate. And that letter of intent you put with your other estate planning documents, and we recommend updating the letter of intent around the individual with disability's birthday. That's just a good reminder to go and do a look back, unless there's some major event that occurs in their lives, like they move into a supported living situation. Topic 2, legal authority. And this goes from the least restrictive to the most restrictive options. So we're big proponents at the ARC on supported decision-making and using supported decision-making strategies. That means helping people make decisions and teaching them how to make decisions. So should I wear the gray blouse today or should I wear the pink blouse today? What do you think, Jan? That would be supported decision-making. She would help me make a decision. It's as simple as that, but it can be as complex as which job would be the better fit for you. Let's go through the pros and cons of each of those. Authorized representative for Medicaid. So if the individual has Medicaid, whether it's state plan or a Medicaid waiver, somebody is oftentimes designated as their authorized representative, meaning that they can also speak to Department of Medical Assistance Services or medical assistance in Maryland, wherever it is, on Medicaid topics and sign for them as well, which is a good thing. The individual can still sign, but you can sign too. So if the individual isn't available, then you can sign off on the documents. Representative payee for Social Security Administration. So if the individual is receiving supplemental security income and or Social Security disability, whether it's insurance, retirement, or survivorship, disabled adult child, then a representative payee is basically saying the individual can't manage their own funds, and so I'm there to assist them. Now, if the person can manage their funds, they don't need a representative payee. But if they cannot or they need help, then the role of representative payee is there. And that also opens the door to conversations with Social Security. That door is closed to you if you're not the representative payee. Power of attorney. We strongly recommend powers of attorney as well. So for both of my daughters, when they turned 18, I had set up, and it was explained to them by the attorney, and then they signed off on a durable, D-U-R-A-B-L-E, financial power of attorney, and a health proxy, so a health power of attorney, as well as an advanced medical directive. So that gave them the ability to make, or for me to help them make decisions. So I function as their agent in decision-making when it comes to finances and health. They have the full authority to make their own decisions, but if we're at the doctor's and I need some information, I can ask the doctor for the information. Now, Sheridan, for example, has done this to me. She's like, you wait in the waiting room, I'm going in by myself. And I have to respect that, right? Guardianship, there's limited guardianship and full guardianship. So limited guardianship or full is guardianship of the person in Virginia and conservatorship of the finances. And that means that you're taking the civil rights away from the person with disabilities, right? And some people even have done that with their parents as well, with the older generation, if they have dementia or Alzheimer's, or they are in memory care, or they're being taken advantage of, or they have disabilities that are getting in their way in their decision-making process. But limited guardian, so what they look at in guardianship is the right to vote, drive, choose where you wish to live, whom you wish to marry, the right to carry firearms, which includes military service for men, and the right to sign contracts. Those are the 6 main things they look at. They'll also throw in medical now with HIPAA. And if you don't have a power of attorney under educational, which you can actually get 3 months before the person turns 18, you could always add educational into that guardianship document. But you can pick and choose. Limited would say they can choose where they want to live, they can vote, and they can choose whom they wish to marry, but they shouldn't sign contracts, carry firearms, or whatever the last one was that I'm drawing a blank on. Right? And then full guardianship is stripping them of all their civil rights. And sometimes this is necessary. Sometimes people cannot make any decisions at all on their own. And if it's a medical situation, somebody needs to have that authority to do so, right? Someone with a legal power. And conservatorship is, again, over the finances, and it can be limited. So maybe Joe inherits $60,000 and the parents, Joe's 23, then the parents gets limited conservatorship to move that $23,000 into a first party special needs trust. And once that is done, that conservatorship ends, because the feeling is that Joe probably won't have any huge amounts of money that need to be overseen or directed anymore. And why bother with getting bonded and providing annual reports? Means tested benefits, what are those? And I gave the definition because it took me, I always find it hard to wrap my head around that phrase, means tested. So what is the definition? A means test determines if a person or household is eligible to receive some sort of benefit or payment. So what means, what assets and resources does that person have in their name? Okay, so Medicaid waivers, home and community-based Medicaid waivers, supplemental security income, and some other benefits are means-tested government benefits. So the government says, what assets and resources do you have in your name? The first criteria is going to be financial. If you exceed on the first three, that $2,000 threshold, then you won't get the benefit. You won't be able to have that benefit. So what is Medicaid? It's a joint federal and state program authorized under Title 19 of the Social Security Act. So Medicaid follows Social Security rules that provides health and long-term care coverage for specific groups of people with low income. So it can be health and it can also be long-term care coverage. So we talk about state plan Medicaid and then Medicaid waivers. State plan Medicaid is directed toward low-income children, pregnant women, the elderly, persons with disabilities, and parents meeting specific income thresholds. And so when it says parents, that we're referring to the fact that there are children, right? And usually those are younger children. So that's health insurance. The home and community-based services under Medicaid waivers, that's long-term care insurance. And that's state-specific. Not every state has Medicaid waivers. The states that do have Medicaid waivers, they have specific rules and eligibility criteria. Maryland has one set, Virginia has a second set, New Jersey has a third set. It varies from state to state. So these state-specific Medicaid programs allow for services to be provided outside of nursing homes. So they're home and community-based services. And they can include things like assistive technology, skilled nursing care, job supports, medical transportation, community integration, group homes, supported residential options, drop-in supports, attendant care, companion care. There's a slew of services under the Medicaid waivers. And there's diagnostic, functional, and financial criteria in order to be found eligible: diagnostic, functional, and financial. Now, since the Medicaid waiver wait list is so huge in Virginia, last I heard it was 14,000 people. Since the wait list is so great, you don't have to worry about meeting the financial criteria when you first apply, because inevitably you will be waitlisted. Unless it's an urgent or crisis situation, you will be waitlisted. And so the diagnostic and functional criteria are the criteria that need to be met. When there is what's called a waiver slot, when there is funding available and you're offered a Medicaid waiver, at that point, you need to ensure, if you haven't already done so, that the individual has less than $2,000 in their name. And we'll talk about how you can do that. Another means tested benefit is supplemental security income. So this falls under the Social Security Administration, and it's based on financial need with financial criteria. And that financial criteria must be met first. If you make an application, the first thing they look at is, does this person have less than $2,000 in their name? If they have more than $2,000, they're denied on what's called a technicality. So they won't even be considered for any type of support, Social Security, for supplemental security income, because they're, quote, over-resourced. So that financial criteria must be met. That means they have little to no income, assets, or resources in their name when they're 18 or older. We're talking about 18 and 1 month or older, okay? If you were to apply for disability supplemental security income when they were younger than 18, they base it on the family's situation. And then they look at functional criteria. Is the person functioning as an 18-year-old, as a 28-year-old? Diagnostic criteria. And this is where we say front load the application with all of the diagnoses the person ever has received in their lifetime. And it's meant to provide cash to meet the basic needs for food and shelter. It can be spent on other things besides food and shelter, but first, food and shelter needs need to be met, must be met. And in 2022, the monthly SSI dollar amount is $841. Other means tested benefits are the housing vouchers that are under HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Program, as well as subsidized housing. Some areas have local housing grants that have rules that are maybe a little bit different from the average housing voucher. For example, Arlington. SNAP, which are food stamps, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. The max on that is $200 in SNAP and food assistance monthly. Legal aid, they have a sliding scale, and utility and energy assistance, and they have deadlines for applying. So you can get energy assistance in the winter and for the summer, but you have to apply prior to the season if you need that assistance. And all four of these have different financial thresholds. All right. So for example, and this is going to be very broad, the Housing and Urban Development is $34,000. And there's a lot of details involved with that, but I'm just going to give you that because again, it's a an hour and a half presentation on housing. SNAP, it's based on the individual. So a person, if you say, yeah, I buy all the groceries and I cook all the food for the entire family, and Sky and Sheridan are older, but I do all the cooking and all the shopping and everything, they won't get SNAP because it's how they look at the household. Now, Sky has a special diet and Sheridan is on a low carb diet, so things are different. So they could potentially get SNAP because of that, because there's individual shopping, so to speak, and individual cooking of whatever it is they're eating. So they're separate households. They're tenants in my home that have their own food needs. Legal aid, sometimes they'll help with guardianship, not often, but sometimes. And as mentioned, they have a sliding scale and a utility and energy assistance that varies from the company. So let's talk a little bit about health insurance. I tossed this in here because that's what Medicaid is, right? So if the individual is getting SSI, then state plan eligibility, Medicaid eligibility has been met. In Virginia, it's a two-step process. We're one of 10 states that require this. So if the person is eligible and is receiving supplemental security income, even if they're not receiving it, but they are eligible, then you can apply for Medicaid for them, state plan Medicaid. If the individual is receiving SSDI or what's often called disabled adult child, depending on what type of SSDI it is, then they're Medicare eligible after 24 months. So just know that. So there's a backup, that's health insurance that our kids need. So SSI is covering room and board and Medicaid is covering the health insurance, right? And people can be dually eligible. They can have Medicare as well as Medicaid. These types of insurance do not interfere with private health insurance or TRICARE. If someone has all three, then Medicare pays first, and then the health insurance or TRICARE and Medicaid. So Medicaid is always payer of last resort. And a person with disabilities may remain on the parent's health insurance as long as the premiums are being paid. I should have said after the age of 26. Speak with your health insurance company or visit their website for details. So they used to require that you fill out a form with the doctor signing off on it. I don't know if they're still requiring it, so you'd want to check with your health insurance company. But it's definitely worthwhile to do that. Estate planning and other considerations. So now we're talking about the parent or parents. You want to make sure you have your last will and testaments in order. So the last will and testament is when I die, this is what's going to happen to my estate. So in my last will and testament, I'm divorced. So it says that when I die, 50% of my estate goes to Sheridan Special Needs Trust and 50% goes to Sky Special Needs Trust. Now, of course, it's the proper language that says Key Bank, comma, NA, successors and assigns, the foundation of the Arc of Northern Virginia, special personal support, family funded trust for the benefit of Sheridan Marcilli. It's a whole long statement that gets put in. When you're married or you have a legal partnership, then normally the spouse inherits everything. right? So you have to have those contingencies in your wills when you're still married. Powers of attorney, you too want to have a durable financial power of attorney and a health proxy in order to give authority to somebody who can make decisions on your behalf if you're not able to do so. So for example, I was selling the car several years ago. Robert was out of the country. I had the durable financial that gave me the authority to sell the car. Advanced medical directive. What do you want to have happen if you're on life support, right? Keep me on life support for as long as possible. Take me off of life support. Do not resuscitate. What do you want to have happen if you're in that medical situation and you're incapacitated and can't make a decision? And then special needs trust is also one of the legal documents you need to be creating. After you've done all that, you need to review your beneficiary designations on any financial products you may have, annuities, life insurance, retirement funds, things like that. If you have your own revocable trust, then you want to look at who's inheriting, what's going to happen to the funds when you no longer have your own revocable trust. It becomes irrevocable upon your death. You should also review your survivor benefit if you have that, if you're a retired military, or if you will be retiring, that SBP needs to be looked at. Adult child support. At 18, the child support is considered the individual with disabilities, even if it's going to a parent's bank account, even if the parent's spending it on behalf of the adult child. At 18, in the eyes of Social Security and Medicaid, et cetera, that money is their money. So you can have the child support irrevocably assigned to the trust, to the first party trust. For example, on the 18th, on the first day of the month of the child's 18th birthday, right? And then it's not counted as income, as unearned income to that child. Very important. If you don't do that, after Social Security waives the first $85 of the SSI, they then deduct $1 of SSI for every $1 of child support the person is receiving. Yes, but if you direct it to the first party trust, they don't count it. You can also make a voluntary contribution to the family funded trust. You don't call it child support at that point. You can make a voluntary contribution to the family funded trust so that it doesn't get counted. And that happens rarely, and that's only done in amicable divorces where everybody trusts one another. And then you also need to think about housing. That's the biggest thing that we parents need to be thinking about when it comes to our death, to put it bluntly, because where are they going to go? If they're not living at home, if they're living at home with you and you die, what's going to happen? Where are they going to live? You need to look at that. Is it going to be in a group home? Is it going to be supported residential? Is it going to be in-home supports in an apartment? Is it going to be living with their sister or brother? What's going to happen? You need to have that conversation, and you want to put that down in writing in your letter of intent. So special needs trust. What is a special needs trust? It's a legal vehicle that provides benefit to and protects the assets of a person with disabilities and still allows that person to qualify for and receive government benefits. So somebody may already be receiving government benefits, and you set up the trust so that upon your death or at any time prior to that, you want to fund that family funded trust so that they have money to use. It could also be for somebody, who was perfectly healthy and working and paying into Social Security and whatnot, and they're in a automobile accident and they're disabled and they need to apply for benefits, right? So it can be for somebody who's already receiving them, or it's a way to move assets in a legal and ethical way prior to the application for means tested benefits. Who's eligible for a special needs trust? Anyone with a physical, mental, and/or cognitive disability as defined by the Social Security Act. That doesn't mean they have to be receiving Social Security, but they have to have a definition that falls into one of the categories at Social Security. Why establish it? The number one reason is to protect government benefits. So you don't want them losing their Medicaid waiver or their SSI or their housing voucher if they're over-resourced. Another reason is to help with money management and long-term financial planning. We have many clients who don't have means-tested benefits. They have Social Security, disability, and Medicare. They have their own work history, for example, and they paid into Social Security, but they can no longer work. So they're getting SSDI based on their work record, and they have Medicare, but they cannot manage the money. And the parents know they cannot manage the money. Or the parents are retired and the individuals are getting Social Security, disability, retirement based on the parents, and they have Medicare. And the parent says, if I leave $200,000 to that child, it'll be gone in no time. So they set up a trust. One moment, I have to sneeze. Okay, back. Another reason is to promote the dignity, comfort, and happiness of the person with disabilities. So this means it's to pay for things that a special needs trust supplements. It supplements government benefits. It does not supplant them. If the government's going to pay for it, let the government pay for it. Right? Let that Medicaid waiver buy the laptop because it falls under assistive technology. But if they won't, the person needs a laptop, then use the special needs trust to get that. Or they want a North Face jacket and that doesn't fall under, there's not enough money in their Social Security to do that. So they get a North Face jacket, or they get Nike running shoes or something like that, or they get the newest iPhone. So they go out to dinner regularly with the parents. They like to go bowling, whatever, right? They want to go on vacation. And then the special needs trust, there's a broad use of the trust funds to supplement those benefits. So those were just some things I was mentioning. I could sit here for the next 24 hours and potentially, if my brain were working well enough, name all the things that the trust can be used for, right? There's a very broad use of the trust fund. It is not restricted. It is incredibly broad. Okay. There we go. So what is a trust? I'm going to play you a video and I'm hoping you're going to hear the sound. So give me a thumbs up if you can hear this in the chat or somewhere. I just paused it. Sorry. All right. No, I'm just doing this crazily here. Sorry. Let me go back to my screen. Okay. Can you hear this? Let me know in the chat.
Families of people with disabilities often use trusts to set aside money for the future.
Yes, good. Thank you. All righty, so I'll continue playing it.
A trust is a special legal arrangement that puts a trusted person, a trustee, in charge of managing money for someone else, the beneficiary. A beneficiary can be anyone who has a hard time handling money themselves. In a special needs trust, the beneficiary is someone with a disability. Here's how the process works. In most trusts, a grantor, usually a family member, sets aside money, property, investments, or other assets for the beneficiary. The grantor chooses a trustee to manage the assets for the benefit of the beneficiary. The beneficiary has no direct control over the assets and can't spend them. That's the role of the trustee. The beneficiary's needs and desires are taken into account, but the trustee has the final say over how the money is spent. And that's what makes a special needs trust so valuable.
Somebody that is on means-based public benefits can only have $2,000 or less in assets. If they have more than $2,000 in assets, they're going to be bumped off of those public benefits, and that's not a good thing.
Even though the beneficiary doesn't control the assets in a special needs trust, day-to-day, month-to-month spending decisions by the trustee can affect benefits if they violate any of the rules, laws, and policies that apply to benefits. That is where the Arc of Northern Virginia plays a crucial role.
The greatest strengths of the Arc of Northern Virginia is their experience and their expertise in the special needs arena. They're not going to make a mistake in the distribution and bump somebody off of public benefits. The rules in special needs area change constantly, and somebody that is not familiar enough with the special needs arena is not going to be able to keep up to date on those rules.
And that's one reason why more than 1,000 families have decided to entrust those tasks to the ARC of Northern Virginia and our partner, Key Bank. In our trusts, we divide the responsibilities of a trustee in two, adding the role of manager to the mix. ARC team members are experts on day-to-day trust spending decisions. Key Bank's team are experts at managing and growing the money in a trust. Adding the ARC team as manager makes everyone's role easier and adds another level of confidence to the future of the beneficiary with special needs. There are a lot of things trust money can be used for, but there are things it can't be used for. Having experts at the ARC overseeing spending decisions makes it family beneficiary.
It was very overwhelming to me to realize that I needed to all of a sudden learn about Medicaid, Social Security, Special Needs Trust. Who had even heard of that?
It is impossible to think of all the future needs of your family member. And this offers a sense of security for those who support that family member.
The ARC of Northern Virginia's Special Needs Trust team works closely with Key Bank staff to make sure the planning, setup, funding, and operation of every trust runs smoothly. We'd love to talk to you about setting up a trust for you or a loved one with a disability. We serve people in Virginia, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and areas beyond. Our trust program is open to people with any disability. Here's how to get in touch.
Okay. So there you have it. So who's who? So this is a broad picture of special needs trusts. And I go into detail about special needs trusts and somewhat of ABLE because these are two newer legal products, so to speak, where wills and powers of attorney have been around for decades and decades. And so people have heard about them, but 80% of families of kids with disabilities have not heard about special needs trust. And even among those 80%, the majority of them have no idea how to set one up or what they should be doing. So there are three places you can go to establish a trust. You can go to an authorized nonprofit like the ARC of Northern Virginia, an attorney, or a financial institution. And when establishing a trust, there are different roles involved in establishing that trust. And then when the trust is funded, taking on the administrative responsibilities. So anytime there's a trust, any kind of trust, whether it's special needs or not, you need to have a trustee, or you may have co-trustees, right? So in our situation, Key Bank is our trustee. We have a legally binding document with Key Bank to be our trustee. If you set it up with an attorney or financial institution, oftentimes the parents are co-trustees, and then they name a family member, a sibling or whatnot to be a successor trustee. Like you heard from Kate and Ruth, who were siblings that were asked to be the successor trustees. And then they came to the ARC actually and decanted the trusts to the ARC of Northern Virginia because it was a lot of responsibility. But if you are with a financial institution, a lot of times the co-trustees are the parents of the bank. And then when the parents are deceased, it's just the bank, unless you've named a successor trustee to work in collaboration with the bank. And the banks nowadays are either not taking on special needs trusts or increasing their minimums to $1 million or 1.5 million to manage them because of the work involved. Our minimum, if you choose to fund it up front, which you don't have to do, but we recommend $300 or more in seed money if you're going to, but you don't have to. We're the manager. So the ARC of Northern Virginia has sole discretion on disbursements, and we do the day-to-day client relations with the individual with disabilities, the family members, the agencies, the service providers, whomever, the dentist, whoever gets involved. So we work together as trustee and manager. The grantors are those people establishing the trust and who provide the assets to be received by the trust. So in some cases, the special needs trust through an attorney or financial institution may name the trustee as a grantor as well. And those are the people funding it. Anybody else may fund the trust, depending on the type of trust, and they don't necessarily have to be named. So in the trust for my girls, Robert and I are the grantors, and we're the ones that we know we're going to be funding the trust. My sisters and brothers, if they want to leave funds to my daughter's trust, they can do that, but they don't have to, right? I have no control over what they're doing. So if they want to, they can contribute, but they're not included as a grantor in the trust. They could be, but they're not. The beneficiary is the individual with disabilities. In our documents, we have what are called primary representatives. So that's the beneficiary, trusted family and friends, agency representatives. These are people who may make requests out of the trust, right? And there's a process in place at the Arc of Northern Virginia. When somebody makes a request, that doesn't mean we pay out the money. There's a process. We review these requests daily. But you want to go beyond, if the parents, we want to go beyond our generation. So Robert and I are primary representatives, and then backups, Sheridan and Sky on on their trusts and one another's trusts. And then my siblings and my nieces and good friends of ours, care attendants that have been in our lives for 10 or 15 years. Those people are named as same age peers, right? So they're around the same age as Sheridan and Sky, because when my generation dies off, I need to ensure that there are other people that can be making requests. And then agency representatives will write things like the current residential provider or the current therapist, because that can change, but there's an end stage backup person or organization that could be there, because a lot of some families don't have anybody to rely on. In a document written by the bank or by an attorney, they may include trust advocates or trust committees who function in the same way as a primary representative. They're also there to bounce ideas off. The trustee can go to them to bounce ideas off of them, or they may even have the authority to stop the trustee from paying out on something. It really depends how that gets worded. In our trust documents, we ask for legal authority. We want to know if there's a power of attorney, a guardian, a rep payee, an authorized representative under Medicaid, because we need to know who we can be talking to in the future when the parents are no longer around. The attorney or financial institution, that's usually not built into the documents. It could be, but it's usually not. And if you want it built in, then you need to add that. Unless, of course, it's a minor child, and then you do want to name who would be guardian if you were to predecease your minor child. And then remaindermen, that's who will inherit upon the death of the beneficiary, and that's in every trust. Who will inherit when the beneficiary dies. So what we do is a team. So step back and look at the first 5 bulleted points under KeyBank as the trustee. Any trustee is responsible for asset allocation and asset management. That means, how do we invest the funds and who's going to be managing those funds? So the trustee is responsible for that. With the ARC program, you can select an allocation model or a mutual fund that gets offered. The trustee is also responsible for account reporting, right? Keeping track of how the money is spent. That may be written into the legal document if you have it with an attorney or financial institution, that the account reporting needs to be provided to the commissioner of accounts on an annual basis, or to Bob and Mary, whatever. But if the person has Medicaid, supplemental security income, or a housing voucher, they too have the authority to request an account report on how the funds were spent. And tax reporting is done on an annual basis, and check writing and dispersing. So if you have a trust, a private trust, as I call it, so with an attorney or a bank, then you as the trustee are responsible for all of that. You can outsource it though. So you could hire somebody to do the investing. You can hire a CPA to do the tax reporting. You can hire someone to do the check writing and dispersing. Right? But a KeyBank for us, that's all part of what they do for us. They also offer 8 investment options under each trust. You can customize your investments if they're over $250,000. Our trust holds real property, and we're the only trust authorized nonprofit that does that. And KeyBank also offers property management. So we have rental properties properties the people live in. It includes mineral rights, etc. And we as the manager, so look at this as a whole picture. This is what we do together with Key Bank. This is what a trustee should be doing, right? If you have your own trustee of a special needs trust. So not necessarily providing services for people with disability, but they should be interacting with that individual, right? They should have an understanding of current benefits and eligibility requirements, follow the grantor's wishes. So how are the funds to be spent? You always consider the beneficiary's needs and priorities. We as the ARC are uniquely positioned because we have a person-centered mission statement. So we're looking out for that beneficiary. We offer a progressive fee schedule for larger accounts. Our chapter's over 60 years old, our trust over 22. So we deliver continuity, reliability, and trust. So we've been in place for a while. This is, quote, all I've been doing, end quote, at the ARC of Northern Virginia since August of 2009, when my position was created. So we're well versed in special needs trusts at the ARC of Northern Virginia. So what types of trusts are there? There are third-party trusts and first-party. Third-party can be funded or unfunded. That means you put money in them now, or you don't put money in until you die, or you put money in them at any time in between. You can establish them with an attorney or a financial institution or through a nonprofit. The first-party trusts, you usually establish those because you have to fund them. And I'll explain all this in the next 2 slides. You can establish it with an attorney. That's called a D4A, or through a nonprofit. They're called D4Cs, and then they call them pooled. So a third-party trust, who establishes it? Either the parents, the relatives, or the friends. They're funded through an inheritance, life insurance policy, transfer from another trust, contributions, real property. So it's not the beneficiary's money. Third-party trust, not the beneficiary's money, anybody else's. You can contact the ARC of Northern Virginia to establish it, the attorney or the bank. It's usually funded upon second to die, or it can be funded prior to death. And you, as the grantor, determine who will inherit, right? You decide who will inherit whenever the individual dies. On the first party trust, or what we call self-funded, federal statute says the individual with disabilities, if not under guardianship, parent, grandparent, guardian with a capital G, it may be court ordered, or an agent under a power of attorney may establish that first party trust. It's funded usually with an unexpected inheritance. That means that Aunt Tanisha died out in California and left $50,000 to Sheridan, and that was unexpected. That has to go into a first party trust because it's her money. A lump sum payback from Social Security, a jury decision or settlement, income of the individual, adult child support, the military survivor benefit, alimony, lottery. The beneficiary's money is what goes into that self-funded trust. They're funding it themselves. Same process, contact us, an attorney or the bank. Don't even bother with the bank if it's not large. Attorneys happily take the large accounts as well. We can handle any account from small to very large. And you only establish it when necessary. So either when the person with disabilities needs to apply for benefits or needs to protect those means-tested benefits, and or they cannot manage their money, or when their SBP is an option. With the first party trusts, federal statute has a Medicaid payback on it. Our attorneys, when they wrote the document, said either Medicaid payback, and then you can name, for example, the heirs of the estate, or you may leave it as a charitable contribution to the ARC of Northern Virginia. And on the self-funded trust, the majority choose to leave it to the foundation of the ARC of Northern Virginia, but you don't have to, right? That's your option there. Other trust programs do it differently. Other trust programs may say they get the first 50,000 and then something else happens to the money, but that's not what we do. We give you the choice. We're all about choice at the ARC of Northern Virginia. I'm going to skip this video. You can watch that later. So let's go to the fees. To establish a trust with the ARC of Northern Virginia, there's a one-time enrollment fee of $1,050. So we're not charging by the minute or the hour or the drafting of the document and then the completion. It's a one-time enrollment fee that can either be paid in cash, check, credit card, an ACH transfer, or monthly payment plan. $87.50 a month for 12 months. No interest, no principal, no penalty fees. And if you need to establish a second trust for that same individual or a sibling, then we offer a buy one, get one half off at the Arc of Northern Virginia. So it's half price. We feel that we've already created a relationship with you. And so we changed that fee several years ago and to offer that. If you establish the trust and there's no money in it, upon the first anniversary of the trust, Evelyn, the assistant manager or assistant director, will invoice you for $65. That's an annual renewal fee. So every year thereafter, if it's unfunded, we'll send that invoice to you, ask for the $65 and ask for updates. If we haven't heard from you, then we need to find out if anything's new. Or you may fund it at any given time. And if you do, then the annual combined management and trustee fee is 1.44% of the corpus of the trust. So if you wanted to after the enrollment fee is paid, if you wanted to contribute $300 immediately thereafter, 7 years thereafter, 3 months later, whenever, then instead of paying $65 annually, it would be 1.44% of that corpus. So in this scenario, with the $300, it's about $4.32 a year. Okay. There's now an annual tax preparation fee of $40 charged by KeyBank. And then the closing fee when the individual is deceased or the trust is about to be depleted, it's a $250 closing fee. These fees are subject to change. We have reduced the combined management and trustee fee 3 times over the last 3.5 years. And I'm going to jump to ABLE now. Oh, these are our strengths, right? So there's minimal family responsibility. We have multiple checks and balances in-house before it gets sent to KeyBank. The fees are low. The accountant tax reporting is done. You have multiple investment options from which to choose. It can hold real property. You can transfer your assets in kind. You have the invested with Morgan Stanley, and when you die, you want them transferred over as is. That would be a conversation with Morgan Stanley, the executive of your estate, and our KeyBank representatives to do that, right? That's your stock. So let's jump to ABLE. What is the ABLE Act? ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. It was signed by President Barack Obama on December 19th, 2014, and it authorizes states to create a new category of savings programs for people with disabilities who qualify. So it's another tool in the toolbox. Like trust, the assets held in these accounts that comply with ABLE will not affect eligibility for Medicaid, SSI, or subsidized housing. It's used only for qualified disability-related purposes. It's a little more restrictive than the trust. The trust has a very broad use of the funds. It was meant to be a transactional account when the Treasury Department accepted it, and this is under the IRS as well. It's a savings mechanism used in addition to, rather, instead of establishing the trust. So a transactional account is money in, money out, though some people are using it as a savings account. Here's some quick ABLE facts. So ABLE says the individual has to be disabled prior to the age of 26. Not true with trust. Trust, it's any age, but ABLE says prior to 26. Who may establish it? The beneficiary if they're over 18, the parent if the child is a minor, a guardian, an agent, or an authorized legal representative. A number of accounts, you may only have one ABLE. You can have 23 special needs trusts, but only one ABLE account. The fees vary from ABLE program to ABLE program. They're whatever the financial institution charges. Their fees are lower than the trust fees that we charge, basically because there's no management or administration of the assets. So we provide that administration, the management of the assets. We also have client relations. We're there to talk to you on a regular basis, answer your questions and advise you on government benefits, et cetera. Contribution limits, $16,000 per year. The total is capped at the 529 plan for that state. So Virginia's is 500,000. And if the individual has SSI, and if the ABLE were to hit 100,000, the SSI would be suspended until the amount came under $100,000. Special needs trusts, there's no minimum, there's minimal minimum. So we have a $300 minimum and there's no maximum on a special needs trust. Investment options, the fiduciary decides that. So many ABLE accounts have 3 or 4 investment options, one of which is cash. Again, we have 8, or you may customize the investments. Valid distributions, they're broadly defined as disability expenses. Earned income is tax-free, so that's a bonus. There's a potential federal Medicaid payback on the ABLE account. So some states have waived the state Medicaid payback, but the feds have not. And then the last bonus, with the beneficiary's income under able to work, the participants may contribute up to an additional $12,880 of gross income if they're not contributing to an employer-sponsored retirement plan. So it's one or the other, right? One or the other. So what are qualified disability expenses? They're related to blindness or disability of the designated beneficiary and for the benefit of the designated beneficiary. So it's for the beneficiary of the beneficiary. It's not for gifting. It's not for other people. It's for that individual with disabilities, and the expense has to be disability related. And these are the different categories that they have lined up. Okay, so there's a variety of categories. There's no further definition on that. The IRS also gets an annual tax reporting. That's why it's strongly recommended that record keeping includes receipts in case of an audit. The IRS may investigate distributions from the ABLE. If ABLE account funds are spent on non-eligible expenses, taxes on the growth plus a 10% penalty on those earnings must be paid. Non-qualified withdrawals are considered income for that month and could count against eligibility for SSI and Medicaid. So if you're using the ABLE account to pay rent and it's $1,000 and you take the money out on April 30th, you don't pay the rent on April 30th, you still have the money in your hands or on your card on May 2nd, that's considered income in April. So you always have to take it and move it, take it and move it. SSA, monthly accounting sent by ABLE. And just like with the trust, if the individual is receiving SSI, Medicaid, housing voucher, state and federal agencies may investigate any distribution to determine whether the withdrawal was for a qualified disability expense. And again, strongly recommend record keeping. We also strongly recommend record keeping when it comes to the special needs trust. We also require receipts or bills or invoices. So I'm going to open it up to questions. And I will stop the share and we can go full screen again with everybody here. So Jan, if you would like to ask me the questions, if there are any, there are no questions. What?
There is no questions in the Q&A.
Oh, I'm shocked. I went through as fast as I could to get to 11 o'clock so we'd have time
Yes.
for questions. How about Jan or Rhonda? Either of you have questions?
No, I think you did a great job with a lot of detail, and the slides will be sent out, and this is being recorded, so it'll be on the YouTube channel for the ARC as well for everyone to review later if they have any coming up. Can you go over the Tuesday talks and when those other talks will be coming up, just to refresh us on that?
Yes. So the Trust Talk Tuesdays are held twice a month on a Tuesday. And it varies. So you always want to check the calendar. So the next Trust Talk Tuesday, for example, will be April 12th and then April 26th. And they're from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And anybody may join us. And we strongly recommend you join us multiple times because that helps you to get a lot of questions answered. The first Friday is futures planning. Last week, the topic was dispersing from a special needs trust, and they're always recorded and they're always on the arcofnovatrust.org website, as well as our YouTube channel. And then May 6th, the topic is on mental health. And so we have 2 professionals coming in to speak about mental health, one from Formed Families Forward, Kelly Henderson, PhD, and then a NAMI representative, and I apologize, her name is not in my head. And then the June 3rd is going to be on letter of intent.
Okay.
And, go ahead, question?
We do have someone who raised their hand. I'm going to allow them to talk, to ask their question.
Okay,
Please go ahead.
I might have raised, I'm trying to get used to the technology. Can you hear me?
Okay. You did not
Yes.
mean to raise your hand.
Well, no, I kind of did, but, well, that was back. Do you have either special needs trust with ARC and the Key Bank or ABLE, or do you do both?
you may have both. If you're planning for your long-term planning, so if you're planning on what you're leaving for your child, it's going to go to a special needs trust, because there are limitations on the ABLE account as to how much you may contribute annually, and there's a potential Medicaid payback, which you don't want to submit your money to. So you definitely want the special needs trust. An ABLE account is if there's discretionary money that you want to put in and allow it to grow there, or yeah. So, and on the trust, as with an ABLE, in both of those, there are prepaid cards available. So if you're thinking about teaching money management with either of those accounts, they can have prepaid cards, and then we help them with managing their money. But yeah, you would have the trust for your assets and resources, and then maybe the ABLE as a means of saving money. Like if grandma sends a check, or if the person's working and they want to contribute some of their funds there. I don't have ABLE accounts for either of my daughters. And I say this all the time, ABLE accounts are good things, but I don't want to manage any more accounts. At my age, I'm trying to delegate work to other people so that when I retire, I can retire peacefully and know that everybody else is doing what I've been doing for 30 years or more at that point. But some people do use them and have the brain power to oversee them. And
Okay, that kind of does it for me. I know that I just want to do the special needs trust with you all. So it's a matter of, is it possible to make an appointment and just discuss my perspective on what I need to do, because I'm very confused and having trouble with paperwork and just.
yes, I should have gone to my next slide. So the last slide is here. This is how you make an appointment or consultation. So we offer one free 50-minute consultation. We always recommend people attend a Trust Talk Tuesday just to ask basic primary questions and get a primary foundational understanding of special needs trusts. But there's one free consultation, and you would reach out to Allie Shelby and she can make the appointment. You can either call her, email her, or you can go online, and you'll get these slides. So you'll have this contact information to make that appointment. So the short
Okay.
answer is yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
I will be sending out the slides, a copy of the slides, along with a link to the recording.
And we share and we set aside, I believe it's the second Friday of the month, for the ARC chapters members to have consultations, just so you know, because there's other days of the week as well. But if you wanted to do a Friday, that's set aside for ARC. Anybody can
Second
join. but-
Fridays of the month, okay.
Yeah, but any other day, I mean, we are on our, Allie will be able to provide either, we have some Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we've opened up the consultations more now that I have Ashley working for me as well.
Are they virtual or are they?
Everything's still virtual. Yeah,
Everything's
our offices aren't open to the public yet. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, and then the other three badges, so people know, so the Thank Goodness It's Financial Fitness Friday, the green one, that's the third Friday of the month. So the next one is on April 15th, and that'll be on finances. And May 20th is on special needs trusts. So I'll do a mini presentation on trusts, and then people can ask me 1,000 questions. And Social Security Basics is June 17th. And so we're bringing in, just so you know, I'll have co-presenters on those topics as well. So other professionals alongside of me to answer questions specifically on those topics. And then we rotate every quarter. And those are also from 10 to 11:30 in the morning. And those are not recorded. So everybody knows the first Fridays are recorded, the webinars, but the roundtables, facilitated roundtables are not recorded because a lot of people come with a lot of personal information and we're not comfortable putting that out on the web. Okay.
Other questions? Tia, thank you. As
You're welcome.
always, I will be in touch. I will see you next Wednesday at Chair Yoga.
Yes, everybody join us for chair yoga. Soraya comes in Jan, Rhonda. It's
You can
free at 10
find
o'clock in
all
the
our
morning.
events on the web, our website, which is arcgpw.org. And click on events, and then each date, if it has something, you click on that and the flyer comes up and you can see what it's all about, how to register, etc. So, okay. Thank you,
Thank you
Tia.
very
I'm
much.
going to stop recording.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. See
You're
everyone.
welcome.